Barbara White, and I'm on the board of NEST, and I also handle compliance work for NEST. And I'm pleased to introduce Carrie Pasquarello to speak on this important topic. I was lucky. Carrie lives part of the time in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and part of the time is in St. James. And I was lucky enough to meet her at Players Club Pool a couple summers ago and find out about her and what she does. And I was fascinated and was so happy to be able to bring her to NEST to share her expertise. Carrie is the co-founder and CEO of Global Resources, Inc., which provides consultations to travelers to help ensure their safety as they travel abroad, elders and students and business people. She spent over a decade living and traveling throughout Europe and Asia, developing her business strategy based on risk mitigation. She has taken her experience with the State Department and turned it into a platform to help others navigate safe travel, refining the security protocols already in place for diplomats. Carrie uses these techniques for private clients, including businesses, teaching about crime, hotels, lodging, civil unrest, and other problems one might have when they travel. By avoiding crimes and scams, travel can be enjoyable. Carrie is also the author of Study Abroad Safety, A Parent's Guide to Sending Your Child Abroad. She has advocated for safety before state agencies, like the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women and the Massachusetts State House, where she helped draft legislation that is currently in its third session. Her involvement with these initiatives is aimed at instilling transparency within the billion-dollar study abroad programs in the United States. And she has been invited to the White House to discuss these issues and continues to be an advocate for protecting students and other travelers. I would be very happy to introduce Carrie Pasquarello now.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction. And we're going to get some slides up for you right now. I may as well say a few things about NEST. How many of you volunteer with NEST? Fabulous. I want to thank you for all you're doing in our community because it's so important for us to be able to help our neighbors and really do our part to help people age in place. So, let's see, technical difficulties. You'll probably have to do something special. There's always a time and place for everything. So back to NEST and the awesome things that you guys are doing. I had the opportunity of helping at my home with my mother-in-law, and we were able to keep her at home for years. Because of the community effort and because of our family being able to do that, I was able to do hospice care for her at home, and that was really meaningful for me. So once again, NEST has such an important place in my heart, and I would highly suggest a lot of you to look into NEST and volunteer your time because it's such a wonderful program. Now, I will say that travel is... Oh, let's see, can you hear me more? You can hear me better now? Okay. So, of course, we have technical difficulties.
Here you go.
Oh, here we go. Okay. This is great. Okay. Now we can start. There I was in Thailand, living and working at the embassy. And this particular day, I had off. My mother had come to visit me, and we jumped in a tuk-tuk just like this. This was my tuk-tuk experience that I had with one of my girlfriends. We traveled around Thailand a lot in tuk-tuks. But this specific day, I was taking my mother on a trip to an amazing shopping area that I discovered. And I was so excited about this to take my mom. And so as we flew down the road in this tuk-tuk, we took a right, and that's where we found military trucks driving towards us, military men walking with their weapons towards us. And I said to the tuk-tuk driver, "Jutini, diuni bai sukumvit samsip, chop chop." So I said, turn this car around. Let's go back to my home where there's a little bit more safety. So away we went. And this was the beginning of a lot of difficult situations in Thailand. Now, this wasn't anything new. Civil unrest is just one of the things that happens in Thailand. We've had over 12 coups since the 30s. So when we moved to Thailand, we knew this was a possibility. And every day after that moment, in that tuk-tuk with my mother, it got worse and worse. The following week, my mother was able to fly back home to San Diego safely. But then we still had more people pouring into Bangkok to protest. The civil unrest was rising. It was dangerous. It got to a point where it was so dangerous we couldn't send our children to the international school. It got so dangerous they were burning buildings in our neighborhood, in our community. They had pipe bombs. And then it went to another level. They had targeted assassinations, pipe bombs, fires. It was a very difficult time. At this point, it was so dangerous that the American embassy had to close. The American embassy closed, the British embassy closed, and there was a state of emergency enacted. And this was where we had to evacuate the country. Now, for us, we always have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D. Now, we couldn't do plan A because plan A was evacuate the whole entire family. We had to go to plan B, which was me and the children were going to be evacuated. And my husband had another plan because he had to stay back with the embassy, with a critical group that had to stay behind. And we were whisked away and we were evacuated back to the States. Now, like many issues and civil unrest around the world, there comes a point where it ends. And it either goes back to the same old and back to the normal, or back to a new normal. And that's exactly what happened in Thailand. At the end of all the civil unrest, the two sides stopped fighting. They came out into the streets of Bangkok, and they cleaned up the chaos, allowing visitors to come back and allowing me and my children to return to the country where we lived. So the children could go back to their school, and I could go back to work. Now, this is why we're here, because you never know when you might be involved with an unexpected departure based on civil unrest, based on environmental issues, based on crime, or based on a personal reason. Now, our year, 2024, our travel season, has had a really crazy beginning. A lot of turmoil for 2024 so far. We had an earthquake in Japan. It triggered a tsunami warning. We've had earthquakes and volcano eruptions in Iceland. We've had issues with 737 MAXs. We've had a state of emergencies called in Ecuador. And of course, we've had issues in Israel, Ukraine, and Russia. Now, what's really interesting is we still have 100,000 flights leaving every single day to fly the world. We have more than 6 million travelers traveling on a given day. And the exciting thing is, we're looking at more than 4.7 billion travelers for 2024. People are excited to get out and travel. But once again, we need to make sure that we're strategizing our safety, that we're taking the time to identify how we can smoothly travel the world and be more successful in what we do. So now, after spending 12 years of living and working overseas, one of the interesting things that happened for us working at the embassy is every time we would change location, new embassy, new consulate, we would meet with the regional security officer. And we would be able to discover all the risks that are in that country. Now, this is not to scare, it's to prepare. And that's what I want all of you to think about. I want you to think about risk and safety from a new perspective. I want you to get out there and explore this world and have a fabulous time doing it. But I want you to be safer. Once again, Not scared, but prepared. So what are some of the things we're going to cover today? We're going to just quickly look at some travel risks and how to mitigate them. We're going to learn effective strategies for personal safety. We're going to discover techniques to protect your belongings, more about medical insurance, some emergency preparedness issues. We're also going to look at digital safety. And from there, we're going to kind of uncover a little bit about medical insurance, which is so important, travel insurance. And then I really want you guys to have a better mindset about travel safety. So the easy way that I try to share with people on how to improve your safety and security is to start with the 3 Ps, being proactive, prepared, and protected. And each of these have some information that I'd like to share with you. Our first is research your destination. Now, what I focus on are individual travel assessments, and what goes into that is when I do research for a country, I want to look at their crime trends. I want to look at the environmental issues. I want to look at terrorism. I want to identify the risks that are in that country. Because once again, when you know the risks, you can avoid the risks. And this is the goal for it. Now, another interesting thing that I want you all to kind of think about for a moment is your communication plan. Now, communication is such a critical issue to talk about with your family. And one of the interesting things is the American Embassy has a Privacy Act form that you should fill out before you travel in order to be able to communicate directly with the embassy. And a lot of people don't know about this form. It's on my website. You can click it, download it, sign it, and just have it for just in case. But a perfect example of why I wish somebody signed this form before they left was a study abroad student. He was studying in France. He did his whole semester. He had a great time. He would call his father every day. And then one day, towards the end of his semester, he didn't call his father. His father got worried. His mom was worried. They're like, why isn't he calling? It was 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. They said, oh my God, something's wrong. So they reached out to the embassy. And unfortunately, he didn't sign this Privacy Act form, so they couldn't communicate directly about this person, because there are some people in this world that don't want to have their information given to their family members. So that's fine. But if you know somebody that you want to be able to communicate directly with the embassy, this is a form you need to fill out. Now, because they couldn't really communicate directly about specific issues about their son, Ken, they had to go about it in a different way. They started calling the hospitals. They started calling the police stations. They put up billboards in France for their son. They started a website. And then they did the circuit with all the national news, blasting his face everywhere. And you know what happened? 2 weeks later, he showed up. And he was like, what? There's a billboard with my face on it. He was so mortified. But the point was, he didn't have this communication plan with his family. And I would say, to have a communication plan, say, are you going to call once a day, once a week, once a month, or never? Just say it so that people don't have to be stressed and worried about that. Now, some other things to improve your situational awareness. This is a critical point of crime prevention, is situational awareness. Now, how do you improve your situational awareness? We have the 2 R's, which is risk and resource, and also a baseline check. And these are strategies to improve your situational awareness. We want to make sure that when we go in to a new area, we want to be looking around. We want to see who's in the area. We want to make sure that we understand what's behind us. And just keeping awareness about where you are. Now, a perfect example of the opposite of awareness, I was up in Boston and I was driving and I came to a crosswalk. And so I stopped because a gentleman was crossing right in front of me. And right when he got in front of my car, he stopped. And he was texting on his phone. He was texting away. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, he has no clue where he is. And so the regular people in Boston will lay on the horn and really honk at this person. But because I teach situational awareness, I wanted to see how long he was going to stay in front of my car. So I started counting. I got to 30 before he finished what he was doing, hit send, and he looked up, and I was right there. And he flew up his arms and waved at me, and he ran. And I was thinking, you know, that could have made him a perfect target for criminals, because they're looking for people who are unaware. about what's around them. Now, I always like for people to monitor what crime trends are happening in the specific area you're going to. So make sure you're researching that. And also making sure that you understand the emergency numbers of where you are, including where's the closest hospital? Where's the closest police station? Do you have those numbers ready? Because when something happens, you don't want to have to look for them. This is all about being proactive. Now, a perfect example of that is when I was overseas and my son came down with scarlet fever. Who gets scarlet fever? So he had scarlet fever, but I didn't have to stress or worry because I knew exactly where the hospital was. I knew exactly how to get to the hospital. I had some language ability. So it was smooth because I had a plan at hand. I didn't have to panic. And that's what is so crucial about being proactive, prepared, and protected. You don't have to panic. You don't have to be stressed. This is about relaxed, making sure that you have everything you need at hand, and then you can be more successful. Now, an easy way for people to remember this, and I wrote a blog about this, is the 5 C's. So where do you start when you're doing your research? Start with the 5 C's. Investigate your country that you're going to visit. Investigate the city. Look at the culture and the crime and the climate. Just those 5 things, and you will be ahead of the game. So now prepared, we want to look at the health and safety issues of the country. We want to make sure we're looking at the geopolitical issues. We want to make sure that we're monitoring our belongings. A perfect example of this, in Fiumicino, Italy, Rome, there was a gang, and it was a criminal organization, and they were coming in from Spain and other countries, and they would go to Fiumicino, and they would steal people's luggage. And it was organized crime. They came every single day, and they would pick off maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 pieces of luggage every single day until the police got onto this. And what they did was a sting operation. And they went into Fiumicino, and they did all this video of everybody in the area, and they waited. And they found them, and they arrested them all. And there was 8 of them, a group of 8. And they were just taking in so much money, so many electronics. People were just losing so much. But once again, how were they able to do that? And it was because the people at the airport were busy putting their luggage into their car rental, or busy, looking around. They didn't know where they were, and they weren't observing their personal belongings. And this is how they were losing them. Now, I always like to talk about a few of these safety items. And I brought some of them to share with you. And the first are these data blockers. These data blockers because we have cyber criminals that will put malware into charging stations. And you might be traveling, your phone is going dead, and you say, oh, I'm just going to charge it right over here at this free place to charge my phone. Well, if there's malware inside and you put your data cable in, they can siphon information from your cell phone, from your computer, take your pictures, take your documents, and important things. They can blackmail you with it, but they just might be able to just use it in other ways. So there's 2 different sizes, one for a cell phone, one for the computers. We have this, which is a doorstop. Now, it's really important to understand what type of safety your hotel has, but there are some hotels that people stay in, and their doors don't secure well. So this is a really great doorstop, or we might have study abroad students staying in new locations, and there's no door lock on their bedroom door. So this is a wonderful thing. We turn it on, and when somebody tries to open the door, that's what happens. This is a great one. This is the Wander Safe. This is fabulous. My friend developed this, and what it is it's a light, it's a strobe light, and then this also has an alarm. Now, what's great with this is it pairs with your cell phone, Bluetooth controlled. And so let's say you're jogging, you're out visiting, you can have your cell phone put away, and if something happens and you feel you're in danger, you can push this button right here, and that will send out an emergency notification to people that you set up to receive your personal notification plus a GPS location of where you are. So when you're traveling the world and you're with a group of women and your husband's back at home and you want him to know that something's going on, you might need some help, at least you can notify him, and from there they can start a plan. They can call you. If you don't answer, well, then they know something's up, and then they can go to the next steps. That's really great. Now the other thing, which is the stash band. I love the stash band. And so right now, who has the bucket of the tickets? Because I'm going to give one of these away. These are the stash band. Now, what's really important is you never want to lose your passport. Please don't lose your passport. I talk with too many people that lose their passport, and they lose, their money, their wallet. So this is a great way. In fact, I have one on. This is my stash band. I have my ID, my credit card in here. Nobody knows I have it. My things are safe. So we love the stash band. The stash band keeps your things safe and away from criminals. And they're such experts. We have such experts out there that their whole entire job is to take people's passports. So important to know that. Okay, so let's see. Another really great thing is have other plans like I have plans. I have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. Make sure you create your extra plans. Just have a plan at hand. Say what ifs. What if I lose my passport? What am I going to do? What if I can't get my transportation from the airport to the lodging? What if? Do your what ifs and find solutions so that you don't have to panic. Once again, it's about not panicking. It's about having a plan. And then another really important thing to do is strategize a meetup place in case you're separated with your group. So, it could be you have a group that you're going with 8 people. Maybe people want to go and do other things, but you could say, hey, at the end of the day, everybody, let's meet at our lobby. Or let's say you're going to the Coliseum and you're with a group, and then all of a sudden there's a gigantic crowd around you and you get separated. What's your plan? So as you're walking into every establishment, just look, there's a gelateria right here. If anybody gets separated from the group, let's all meet here at the gelateria in 2 hours. So at least you have a plan at hand. Nobody has to be stressed. That is what it's all about. Now, protected. We want to make sure, once again, that we're understanding the scams that are happening in our communities. No matter where you go, there are going to be scams. There's scams in, let's say, Spain, where we have the whisperer. Now, the whisperer, this is a guy that is already identified what he wants to steal from you. And he's going to come up and he's going to say something like this. And people are like, what? And then they come closer. And he's already working with other people. And so as you come closer, they go in and take what they want. And most of the people don't even know the thing is missing until an hour later or later on in their adventure for the day. So very important to understand their scams. All you have to do is, before you go, Google Rome scams, Google Greece scams, whatever it is. Just review it, and research it. So important. Now, familiarize yourself with the distraction crime. This is a huge one, especially when we're talking about apple picking. Does anybody know what apple picking is? Okay, apple picking is hot nowadays. There are groups going out finding apple phones. And their favorite thing to do is they might have 4 people working in this distraction group, and you're sitting at your cafe table, you're taking pictures, you put your iPhone down, and somebody comes and taps you on your shoulder. You turn around, and they want to tell you how gorgeous you look, how fabulous you are. You must be a movie star. And then their friend comes around and swipes it. It's gone, poof. Now, they'll call this petty crime, but it's not really petty because you're probably, $1,000, $1,500 for your Apple iPhone. So once again, making sure that you stay in possession of your items is so critical. It's going to save you time, going to save you money. And that's what this is all about. And reduce your stress levels. That's a key. Remember Wi-Fi, no matter where you go. I always like to use my hotspot. So I have my personal Wi-Fi. But if you do go to a hotel and they have a Wi-Fi for you to log on, make sure that you know the password and it's password protected. You're just going to keep your items a little bit more safe from criminals if you use password-protected Wi-Fi at the location that you're going. Don't have a roaming open Wi-Fi where you're logging on to various Wi-Fis as you go. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So don't do that. And my other thing I'd like to mention is reading The Gift of Fear. Has anybody heard of that book, The Gift of Fear by Galvin D. Becker? Okay, I love Galvin D. Becker. He's really amazing, and he actually it works with the FBI. He learned how to identify violent behavior in criminals when he was 6. It's a big, long story, but I love what he does. He works with top agencies throughout the world, and he teaches intuition and situational awareness. Really incredible book. I love it so much. So let's see. Now, this is something that I always ask when I start my travel presentations. I have 3 questions for you. The first is, how many of you research the 911 number of the location you're going? Fabulous. Savvy traveler. Anybody else? Okay, so this is what I suggest people do. Make sure you know the equivalent 911 before you travel. And sometimes your phone, if you dial 911 when you're in a foreign country, sometimes it might connect you, but you don't want to say might. You want to know. What number do you call? When you're over in Europe, it's 112. When you're over in Japan, it's 119. So we want to make sure that we understand the emergency number where we're traveling to. Next question, who knows what the smart traveler is? You guys know what the smart traveler is? Yeah? Okay, fabulous, fabulous. Okay, savvy travelers. Okay, for those who don't know what the smart traveler is, it's a free program put on by the State Department. And this free program, you just go on to step.gov, you'll put in your information, you'll put in your passport number, you'll put in a little bit about your itinerary, and then what you'll do is they'll be able to do push notifications if there's a situation in the area that you are. Maybe it's civil unrest, maybe it's a crime trend, maybe there's some environmental issues coming your way. Whatever that important information that the embassy wants you to have, they'll be able to get it to you. Without signing up for the step, you're just out of the loop. We don't want you to be out of the loop. And the next is, have you confirmed your medical and travel insurance? How many of you literally call or read through the fine print of your medical insurance? Yes, great, great, great. Savvy travelers right there, fabulous. I want the rest of you to do the same. Because this is so connected into your financial stability and protecting your finances. This is such an important thing for you to do because there are certain things that you won't be covered. For instance, if you go to a location with one of the travel advisory levels, number 4, or maybe, I talk about this a lot with the student travelers, if you consume alcohol and you have an accident, you might not be covered. There's a lot of different things, and let's say some of you are adventurous and you want to go do bungee jumping, whitewater rafting, who knows, right? So as you're going and doing these additional level of travel, we want to make sure you're covered because this will protect you financially. We don't want any mishaps. And so one of the things that I always add on is MedJet. There are other organizations that do this, but MedJet, I started telling people about MedJet for so many years. I finally teamed up with them, so I have a link for you. I did it because my link gives you a discount. Now what this does, what MedJet does, I have a question. How many of you have AAA? Okay, those are my people. Now why do you have AAA? You said you had AAA?
No.
You have AAA? Why do you have AAA?
In case I need it and I'm traveling in my car.
In case, right? That's you being proactive, prepared, and protected. And that is exactly what MedJet is. MedJet gives you an extra level of protection. If you're in a hospital, if you're admitted to a hospital, they'll transport you back to your home hospital of choice. And that is exactly what I want. So I have all of my children, I give it as gifts. And this is why it can be really expensive. And let me also mention the #1 reason for American citizens to end up in a hospital is trips and falls. Simple trips and falls, we can have them here. Trips and falls and car accidents. That's something that happens all around us all the time. And this is what happens if you have a trip and fall and you end up in the hospital over in Australia. It's going to cost about $200,000 to get you back home. Here's another one from France to New York. Once again, saving about $90,000. Here's another one domestically. So for instance, my main home is up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'm a part-timer here in St. James. And if I'm in a car accident, if I trip and fall, break my leg, I want to be delivered back to my home in Cambridge so I can go to Mass General. So when I'm out in San Diego, when I'm in Tennessee, when I'm down in South Carolina, here, I know that I'm going to get back home and it's not going to be a burden on my family. I've seen too many GoFundMes, medical GoFundMes for people. And so when I give it to my children and everybody that I love, it's because if there was a GoFundMe page for that person, would I be donating to them? Yes. So I may as well get them because it's only $99 for a week's coverage. It's ridiculously low. It's like AAA. So anyways, I just love that. Now let's go on to travel advisories. This is another question for you. How many of you guys check the travel advisory level of the place that you're going? Savvy travelers, I love it, I love it. No, there's a really easy way for you to do this. You're just gonna go to travel.state.gov and you'll put in the location of where you're going and it's gonna generate what level the information is for that specific country. Now what's really interesting about this is most countries will have just one number. But there are countries that have more than one number in them. So example, Mexico. Lots of people travel to Mexico. Mexico, we have an exercise normal, we have increased caution, we have reconsider, and we have do not travel to certain areas of Mexico. And so this is really important for you to understand before you go, because once again, like I said, your insurance probably won't cover you if you're in a level 4 location. So you have to understand, where do I want to stay out of? Where do I want to go? And then what we have is the risk indicators. Has anybody checked out their risk indicators? Okay, so this is an added level. So for each of our travel advisory numbers, they'll give you risk indicators of why they put it at that. So for instance, for Mexico, they have a risk indicator of crime and also kidnapping. So as a person, if I'm going to Mexico, I'm going to research a little bit more about kidnapping and a little bit more about the crime trends. And so this is really important because over in Mexico, we have a lot of interesting advice that I give to people when they go to Mexico. And it can include tainted alcohol, tainted medicines. It can include kidnappings and virtual kidnappings. Have you guys heard of virtual kidnappings? Okay, so if any of you guys get a call from your grandkid and they say, a mom or dad or grandma, I'm in jail, or somebody calls and tells you, do not call Sally because we've kidnapped her. You have to go ahead and send us money right now or she's going to be killed. Immediately hang up and call Sally. That's best advice because the virtual kidnappers are actually getting a lot of money, but we need to be aware of this strategy, right? So as you go and look at your travel advisory, that's a really wonderful thing for you all to do as part of your research. So those were the 3 questions. And now we get to go to our laws and culture. So once again, really important for us to be researching these. Now I'll just give you a couple little stories that happened recently pertaining to laws and cultures. So we just had 2 ladies go to Bali. They went, one lady was from London and her friend was from New York. They went in to go have their nail service at a salon. They asked for an additional service. So when it came time to pay, they owed more money. And they were really angry. And so they started screaming at the shop people, at the people that were doing their nails. And then at one point, and this is all videotaped, at one point, the woman from New York grabs the shopkeeper and starts shaking her and yelling at her. And they ended up leaving this shop, and they thought they'd be cute. They were scheduled to leave Bali on the 22nd of December, but instead they were going to scoot out on the 17th so they could avoid all, the hassle that they were going through. The police showed up at the airport, arrested them. Right now they're in jail, waiting to see if they're going to get 2 years in jail for disrespecting people in Bali. So that's a really important law. Another situation happened recently in Dubai. So there was a person from Africa. He rented a car. His friend was from Texas. She was in the car. They had a car accident. And afterwards, the car was towed back to the car rental agency, where this woman from Texas walked in because her purse was in the car. She wanted to get her purse back and her passport back. Well, the shopkeeper said, you have to pay a fine. And she said, I'm not going to pay a fine. And she screamed at him, yelled at him, disrespected him. And the next thing, she was arrested. They didn't allow her to leave the country for 5 months while they listened to her case. And she's lucky it was only 5 months. At the end of 5 months, they kicked her out. She still had to pay a fine. And with the caveat, she can't come back. Not that she wants to come back. But once again, if rude behavior, you might get away with it here in America, you're not going to get away with it over in other countries. Now, back to some more interesting fees. What shoes, does anybody know, what shoes are against the law to wear in Cinque Terre? Anybody? Flip-flops, that's right. Flip-flops, you could get a fine of 50 euros to maybe 2,000 euros. And this is based because many, many people go to Cinque Terre and they wear their flip-flops, they're in their beach outfit, and they're going to the beach, but then they're like, it's Cinque Terre. I gotta go and walk over to some of these other communities. And they get on the paths, the trails, and then they sprain their ankle, break their leg, or fall into a ravine. This was happening so much to travelers that the government said, no, we have to stop this. People can't wear high heels or flip-flops on the trails anymore. And if they do, we're going to give them a fine. And if they do fall off and we have to rescue them, they're going to pay for the rescue as well. So really important to wear the proper shoes because first, we don't want to end up in the hospital. If we do, we got to have MedJet, but don't end up in the hospital. So another couple of interesting fines are, who has gone to Capri? Okay, fabulous. So if you went into the Blue Grotto and you chose to jump off that boat, that would be a fine of $6,000, 6,000 euros. Yes, do not jump off the boat. Another $500 or 500 euro fine if you jump into one of the fountains in Europe or Italy. So if you want to jump, it's very hot, you think the Trevi Fountain looks fabulous, no, do not do that, because that could be a 500 euro fine. And then the worst of them all is for terrible travelers to scratch their initials into the Colosseum. We just had this happen last year. We're talking 14,000 euro fine, plus a couple of years in jail. So we want to make sure that we understand the laws and the culture before we go, because we don't want to get in trouble. Here's a question. Okay, how many of you guys know how many passports are lost each year? Any guess? Somebody have a guess? How many? Thousands. 300,000. 300,000. Okay, so think of this. This is why we wear a stash band. This is why we wear a stash band. First of all, you're going to save time and money, and it is a valuable item on the black market. People are looking for them. People want to steal your passport. But the worst of it, you are going to waste time and precious money. Now, I had a group of women that were going to the Amalfi Coast. They were really excited about this. One of the husbands contacted me and asked me to do a travel assessment. Well, in that travel assessment, I wrote about a scam and a crime that happens along the Amalfi Coast. We have all these beautiful lookout points. And every day in these lookout points, you might have 1,000 cars that stop in that specific area because it's just a gorgeous picture, right? So every single day, cars are coming. Well, right over here is a criminal. And he waits for that car to pull up. He waits for the people to jump out of the car, super excited, running to the edge, taking their pictures. And they just creep over, open the car door, and take a purse. And that's exactly what happened to that group of women. Now, unfortunately, I wrote the report, wrote that in it, and she didn't read it. So unfortunately, she lost her purse. And then I got the panicked call. What do I do? Right? And so once again, she ended up spending 100 euros to take a taxi down to a police station that was closed, so that wasn't good for her. And then she called me and I said, well, you'll have to go to the consulate in Naples. You're going to have to bring a passport picture. You're going to have to make an appointment. And you're going to have to go and wait in line and get your emergency passport. Now think of this. They were there for 7 days. These fabulous 5 women, you know, having a great time. And she had to take 3 days. out of her time and not do what she really wanted to do. So once again, we want to save time, save money, and not have stress. And this is how we do it. We keep it safe with our stash band. So here's a few more interesting things that I always like to add in. And this is about having a seamless and safe journey. So packing essentials. I think it's really important maybe to have your own travel adapter, right? Please pack a first aid kit, maybe with some butterfly bandages and some other things, just in case, some proper medication if you need. We want to make sure we pack a whole outfit in our carry-on, just in case we lose our luggage in the transit, right? We want to make sure we have sunscreen, bug spray, very, very important. We want to make sure we're preventing our trip from coming to an end because we lose our prescription medication, right? So we want to make sure that we have a copy of the medication, copy of our prescription, just in case, so we can get it, filled while we're overseas, just in case. It's just going to be able to help. And then make sure that you have a copy of emergency contacts and in a written form. Have it in your luggage, just in case. Like, once again, we go with our what ifs. What if you lose your cell phone? What's on that cell phone that you really need right now? Whatever it is, email yourself your tickets, your itinerary, email a copy of your passport, email yourself a picture of your ID. Just do that so it's safe. You have a secure way of getting it, just in case. Another thing about transportation hacks. So how many of you rent a car when you go overseas? There's some people that like to do that. So I personally want to make sure I have reputable travel provided for me. I prefer a driver. But it's interesting. Even for our people that are out there with a driver, doesn't mean there's not going to be any type of hiccups. And I'll tell you a quick story. While I was living in Thailand, working at the embassy, my husband had a driver and I had a driver. And we were going through the city one day, and actually we were all in one car, my 3 children, my husband, me, and our driver. And we're about 10 minutes away from our house, and all of a sudden, we were at a red light, and the driver says, "Kun Carrie, I have to go." And he opened up the door, jumped out, ran through the traffic, and he ran away. And I'm like, what? I looked at my husband, I said, our driver just jumped out of the car and ran away. I could not believe it. And thank God, over the months, I had been identifying exactly the streets we were on. I knew how to navigate back home. And that's what happened. I looked at my husband. I said, I guess I'm the driver. So I jumped in the seat, and away I went. Now, I was lucky because I had a plan in place. I knew how to get there. I knew where I was going. I was really lucky. And then after that, I didn't get a driver. I just started driving around myself. But I had a little bit added benefit because we did have diplomatic passports and we had diplomatic plates on our car. So that gave me a little bit extra safety while I was driving around the communities. And I also drove in Rome, which is another crazy place to drive. I mean, really. But once again, making sure that your transportation is protected is good. Now, always, for our pedestrians, make sure. We have so many pedestrian accidents with travelers. Make sure you're looking to the right, to the left, to the right, and the left again, because we do have bicycles, motorcycles, they go on the sidewalk. People don't follow the direction of where you're supposed to be going. So we have to understand that sometimes pedestrians are lowest on the level of protection. I mean, up in Massachusetts, we have the law. You have to protect people who are walking on the street, but overseas, not so much, so we have to be very careful with that. Make sure you get your maps and download them offline so that if you don't have any service for your cell phone, you still have maps of the area, so you can still get home or get where you need to go. Make sure you add a travel language app. There's a lot of really great apps nowadays, and if you're at a restaurant and the whole menu's in Italian, and you want to know what it says, there's these apps, you put the photo above it, and it will translate it automatically for you, instantaneous. That is a wonderful tip. Now, local customs. Once again, we want to learn a few local phrases. Thank you, where is. We have a whole list of phrases that are really important to kind of understand. And it's kind of fun when you're learning a new language. And people will respect the idea that you're trying your hardest to blend in and you're appreciating their culture. let's see. Another thing that you can Google when you're doing your research is do's and don'ts of the country. So that's really important, especially as we get into some countries like, let's say, Turkey, Egypt, other areas where their culture is a lot different than our communities here, where we have gender issues overseas. This is really important for us to just have a little bit more in-depth knowledge about where we're going. And we also want to make sure that we're respecting the etiquettes and dress code. So more conservative is always best, especially when we're going into churches, mosques, or temples. We want to make sure we're respecting all of the cultures in the area. Now, health and safety. Another great place to go to while you're doing your research is go to the CDC. Find out if there's any upticks in certain diseases in that community. Make sure that you understand what sicknesses are there. So this way, once again, you know the risk, you can avoid the risk. That's what's really important about this. And also, consider altitude where you're going. We don't want to have any altitude sickness, and this kind of goes back to our driving. We just recently had a military officer that was over in Japan. He climbed Mount Fuji. He felt that he had some altitude sickness or something going on, and he passed out behind the wheel, and he got into a car accident, killing 2 Japanese people. He ended up going to jail for more than 2 years. We finally just got him back to America just this past month. He's finally free to be with his family. So there's a lot of risks that we take, and that's one of the reasons why I do like having a driver. If there's a car accident, you can walk away, and if you are in that position. So another really important thing that we should talk about is swim safety. And swim safety, we have over 200,000 people that die each year from swim issues around the world. And so now we have the WHO, they're doing a prevention awareness campaign to prevent drownings. And the first one was just on July 25th, and going forward, every year, they're going to have this awareness day. And it's really important. They have 6 items that they're trying to get people to understand more. I'll just highlight 2. The first is the rescue, CPR. How many of you guys are trained for CPR? Fabulous, wonderful. So those who aren't trained for CPR, take a class. You might be able to save your partner, your loved one, and it's really important. Another thing is they're trying to do better with barriers for any type of swim areas for small children. Oh, and the last is we're trying to make sure that children are learning to swim at younger ages. Really important. So now, I want to ask you guys, where have you gone in 2023? Anybody want to share?
Portugal.
Fabulous. Oh my God, what an awesome place. Anybody else? Iceland. Okay, you made it to Iceland before the eruption? Awesome. Anybody else? Yes?
Rhine River Cruise.
You did oh, wonderful. Wait. Australia, you're the farthest so far. And Morocco, did I hear Morocco over here? Oh my God, wonderful.
Spain.
And Spain? France?
Turkey, Greece, and Slovenia and Croatia.
Oh, Croatia, oh my gosh. Okay, amazing, that's a fabulous trip. And where did you go?
Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam.
Oh my God. And Taiwan, okay, fabulous. Wow, so many wonderful places in 2023. Now, once again, we're going to have 4.7 people traveling the world in 2024. It's very exciting. I will say, here's Mauritius, and we have to talk about hurricanes and cyclones. So the season started in November, ends in May, and just recently we had a terrible cyclone that came through Mauritius, and now they're building back. But this is just things that happen around the globe. Every single year we have these issues that happen. So when you guys plan your trips, do you use Get Your Guide or Viator? Wonderful. Do you guys like it? Because I always suggest, it's really, first of all, Viator. If you go Viator for the location you're going, you can actually see all the activities that are in that community. So you could really make your itinerary based on the wonderful things that are happening in that area. But I have to say, if there's something you really, really want to do when you get to that location, pre-book your tickets. Because I've heard of people going to locations and they were sold out. And they weren't able to get in and have the best experience that they really wanted. And then they have to go back. right? So if we're trying to save time and money, make sure that you pre-book. So that's always a great idea. So much fun. Okay, so now I'll talk about 2 tips and then a giveaway. Very exciting. But the first tip about packing, don't pack too much. Less is best, okay? We want you to be able to hold your things, unless you're doing it a really fabulous way, which you have your luggage delivered to your hotel. Then take whatever you want. They have those services. They'll come to your house, they'll pick up your luggage and deliver it. So we like that. It's also if you're using a Virtuoso travel advisor. We love Virtuoso travel advisors. Anybody use a Virtuoso travel advisor? Okay, fabulous, wonderful, wonderful. So when we're using a Virtuoso travel advisor, we're getting really wonderful, curated adventures. So we love that. But make sure, for the average person, less is best. You want to be able to hold your things, control your things. And one of the best ways for us ladies is to make sure that our outfits, our colors are kind of blend with one another, and then use lots of scarves. We're changing up our outfits with our scarves and our accessories, so that's always good. Now shoes, 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 shoes. Make sure they're good, sturdy, fabulous shoes. You're gonna be walking around a lot. We're getting our steps in, so make sure they're very good. And another tip is, if you're going somewhere you know you're gonna be doing a lot of walking, start walking now. Get your stamina up. Get prepared. There's so many great places to walk in St. James, oh my gosh. So start walking today. So here we go. Okay, I can't talk about travel without talking about food. And for those of you that know me, you know I love to cook and I love to eat. So that's all I ever do. So every single place I ever go, I love to set up cooking classes. So this over here is one of my first cooking classes I did in Milan back in the 80s. It was called Nostra Cucina, and I learned how to make raviolis and fresh pasta, and I still do it to this day. These are tartufo raviolis. Oh my God, heavenly. And then I have my girlfriend here, Lauren. She does cooking vacations in Italy, highly curated, fabulous trips with her. She's Italian, but she also started a podcast. And if you listen to her podcast, oh my God, it makes you want to go to Italy today because she just explains everything in such a beautiful way. So that's cooking vacations. The other thing is, once again, making sure you're hitting the festivals when you're at the location, right? We want to immerse ourselves, making sure that we can have more cultural agility as we explore the world, learning and making new friends, and this is a great way of doing that. So I love that. Okay, money. We got to save our money, okay? So look into your credit cards that you find one without the foreign transaction. Call up your bank. If they don't have one, maybe you want to get a different one. But also in this vein is you can ask your bank, what ATMs can I use in that country that will give me a lower fee or maybe no fee? So really important to check that out. And the other thing, count your money. Okay, here's a story. When I was living in Rome, I would go to the supermarket all the time, because I lived there, and I would go in, I would buy a bottle of milk. It would be €5. I give the shopkeeper a 20, and every single time, they give me €5 back. And I'd have to say, scusate signora, tu sei sbagliato. I want €15, right? I'd have to tell, you're wrong. I want €15 back. And then they'd go, oh, mi dispiace, so sorry, okay. And then it happens so often that I asked my Italian friend, I said, what is this? Why does this always happen to me? And you know what she said? She said, they believe if you're too stupid to count your money, you're too stupid to have it. And so, with that advice, make sure you know your money. Make sure you know your change. And you can play the game as well, because I loved it. After I knew that, I just loved it. It was really a lot of fun. But anyways, also check your credit cards to see if you have additional insurance that's available. You might have airline club lounges that are included. You might have auto collision. You might have lost luggage. And one really important is the travel accident insurance coverage. Wherever you can find more coverage when you need it is important. So make sure that you're having your credit card work for you. Now, sustainable travel. How many of you guys are aware of the sustainable travel trend? Okay, some, yeah. Okay, so a lot of companies are getting involved with it, but my favorite sustainable travel trend is the farm to table option. So you can do your part, and reduce your carbon footprint by eating at restaurants that do that farm to table. They have a lot of really phenomenal agriturismos in Italy that you can go and stay in, and they're growing the vegetables, they're growing the fruit, the herbs that they're serving on the table. So I always like that. I like that also around domestically as well, just to be able to do that. Another really important thing, respect the wildlife. Now, I know we have some doctors in the house, and they'll agree with me. You don't want to get bit by a dog or a cat while you're traveling. You'll need to have attention. And a lot of the countries that you go in might not have the proper medication to give to you and the shots that are required after being bit by an animal you don't know. So my advice is to make sure you're staying away from all animals. Just look from afar. Those monkeys, those cats, those dogs, they're super cute. Don't go and pet them. Restrooms. Okay, this is a really important one, right? Because now we have multi-generational trips that we have big groups going. We have children, parents, grandparents, and people say, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a bathroom. I can't go. We don't want people to say that. We have a lot of groups and a lot of companies that are working with disabled travelers now. It's a whole huge industry right now, especially as we're looking at these multi-generational groups that are going. We want to make sure that everybody can enjoy where they're going. Now, here's a couple of interesting things. Let's say you're going to London. You can have this app that's Assess a Loo, and what it will do is it will point out all the different bathrooms along your trip. And then also you can purchase a radar key or a Euro key, or over in Australia, we have another key over there. And so you can either purchase these online, eBay sells them. I have an email address that I could share with you if you need one to have it delivered before you go. Otherwise, while you're overseas, you can go to a store that sells wheelchairs and disabled items, and they'll probably have the radar keys that you can purchase in country. And this is really wonderful because we have people that might have Crohn's disease or just other issues where they need to use a disabled bathroom. And we want to make it as easy as possible. Now, this is my friend over here, John. And John, he is a big, big traveler. He was going to hotels about 300 a night in a year. He was an avid traveler. He was in a car accident and he lost his 2 legs and one of his hands. And he started wheelchairtravel.org. It's a nonprofit, and he's an advocate for disabled travelers. And now he does all sorts of wonderful assessments for buildings and businesses and countries. And also, he has groups that he takes. So right now he has planned a trip to Spain with disabled people in wheelchairs. He has another one for Portugal. And then he's actually coordinating one for Africa. So that's going to be another big one that's going to be coming up. So he's doing wonderful things. He made the cover of this new mobility magazine. We're so proud of him. And he's doing amazing things out in this world. Now, this is another interesting thing. It's called the Blue Flag Beaches. Now, Blue Flag Beaches are a certification that beaches, marinas, and boats will get. We already have over 5,000 involved in 51 countries. And this is really wonderful. So if you are in this, a group that has somebody that has a disabled person in a wheelchair or sight, whatever their disability may be, and you're planning on going to a beach, check out and see if there's a Blue Flag beach. What's nice about it is they're going to be checking the water quality at the beach. There's going to be facilities, disabled facilities in place. There's going to be access to fresh water. There's going to be medical equipment there. And this is just a wonderful, wonderful organization that is certifying these beaches around the world so that we can make sure that safety and access are for everybody. So I love Blue Flag Beaches. Now, here's a couple of interesting announcements. So the first is our European Travel Information and Authorization System. It has been postponed. It was supposed to go into effect this year. Now it's going to probably be next year. And this is a new requirement that's going to be for visa exempt people. So all of us, we used to just jump on a plane and go to Italy. Now what we're going to have to do is go online. We're going to have to fill out this form. It's going to take less than 5 minutes. It's going to cost $8, free for seniors and free for children. It'll be good for 3 years for multi trips to Europe. So we'll have to all get this in the future. Now the entry and exit system, the EES, is another thing that they're going to be starting. Now this one, they're going to be capturing your face. They're going to be capturing 4 of your fingerprints as you come into the country. And this is so they know exactly who's coming in on the date you get there and the date that you leave. And the reason they're doing this is really to reduce crime. They want to stop smuggling. They want to stop human trafficking. They want to stop organized crime. And so these are the reasons that they're initiating the EES, which should be probably in 2025 as well. We'll see, because there's a lot that they have to do. I could see that being pushed off an extra year as well. Now, how many of you guys have your real ID? Real ID, real ID. Okay, lots of you. Okay, for the rest of us, we have until the mid-2025 to get it, so we have to get on that. And let's see. Okay, who can answer this question? What? Who said that? You said mosquitoes? Winner, winner. Okay, you win a stash band. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, here we go. Very, very happy. Mosquitoes. Yes, yes, thank you. Mosquitoes are the most dangerous animal, killing more than 700,000 people. They spread malaria, West Nile, dengue, chikungunya, Japanese encephalitis, and other diseases. We have to stay away from this as much as possible. We want to make sure that we're using the best insect repellent. We want to make sure that we're visiting a travel clinic, finding out exactly what the dangers are in those specific areas so we can protect ourselves. Once again, saving time, money, and less stress. Now, this is one of my really good friends, Stephanie Rodriguez, and she's actually the founder of this WanderSafe that I showed you. Now, we started collaborating together, and in 2019, she came to Boston so I could do a podcast with her. She was, the week before, she was in Africa talking about her WanderSafe, how this could keep village girls safer as they went to school. They would be able to push the button and notify their family if something was happening on their way to school. So she was off in Africa talking about that. She came to Boston. We sat down for the podcast. But as she walked in, she said to me, "Carrie, I just don't feel so good." And I said, "How many mosquito bites did you get?" She said, 5. And I said, "Okay, Stephanie, if you don't feel good before you leave," she was flying back to Australia on Sunday. She came to Boston on Friday. I said, "If you don't feel better, like, go to the doctors. Just get yourself to the doctors." So we did our podcast, took her all around Harvard. The next day she went to a Red Sox game. The next day she was at Boston Logan flying out, where she collapsed into a coma. She was diagnosed with malaria, and it wasn't just malaria, it was cranial malaria. It's over 90% fatal. And as I raced up to the hospital, the doctors came in several times telling me that, and the group of us that were there, that she only had less than an hour to live. They said this several times to us, but she kept beating the odds. She beat the odds, and then it went, but meanwhile, beating the odds in the coma. So it came to one point where they said, well, she might live, but she's going to lose her arms and legs. And she ended up coming out of the coma, and and she faced years of surgery, over 100 surgeries, to try to keep her feet. So she tried to keep her feet, and at the end of this, malaria won, and it took the lower parts of both of her legs. Now, what's remarkable about this story is Stephanie, as soon as she got these bionicle feet, she took off and flew to Belize to swim in the ocean. From there, she jumped on another plane, flew to Africa to give a TEDx talk. Then she goes back to Australia, and she joins the Paralympic fencing team, where she's been kicking butt in this ever since. And now she's going to be in the Paris Paralympic for fencing this summer. She is amazing. She's amazing, but every day she has pain. And every day I think of her, and I think of you, and I say, please, wear your sprays, and make sure you go to a travel clinic. We need to try to avoid this type of serious issue from happening. So where's your next trip? That's what my question for you is. This is San Diego. This is where I'm from. And so every year I go back here twice, at least once or twice, and I stay right here, and then I stay way out here. I go back and forth. This is La Jolla, and we just love San Diego. How many have been to San Diego? Okay, love it, love it, love it. So now where? I want to ask, where are you going in 2024?
Australia, New Zealand.
Australia? Italy, okay. Portugal? South America?
Berlin, Germany.
Berlin?
French River Cruise on
Oh, fabulous. And some people traveling over here?
River Cruise, Italy, France, and Spain.
Oh my gosh, you're just making me so happy. Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Where are you going?
Australia, New Zealand,
Oh my
and
gosh.
Fiji.
So, Fiji. Okay, I love Fiji. I'll have to share a little bit more about Fiji. So, a lot of fun travelers. Oh my God, this is really awesome. I can't believe it. Okay, question. What is this? Wait, that's right. This is one of my favorite places. I love Mont Saint Michel. Okay, and let's see. How many of you guys have been to the Canary Islands? Yes, yes. Oh my God, so much fun. It's a great place. Here, oh, we talk about Fiji. This is where I went. This is Tavarua. So I was a big surfer, and they have a very special surfing break that you have to take a boat from this island out into the middle of the ocean to catch the waves. Very crazy, but I love Tavarua. And I know some of you have been to Orvieto. And how many of you guys went into the tunnels? Okay, how many of you ate pigeon? No? Okay, boar? Okay, lots of great stuff to eat out in this world. Okay, Cambodia. Okay, there we go, some Cambodia people. I love it. So much fun. These are some pictures my daughter took on our trip to Cambodia. So their view of safety is different than mine, as you can see right here. Okay. Okay, so now I want to ask you guys, who has a great safety tip that they'd like to share with the group? Anybody? Yes.
Make multiple copies of the front of your passport, the middle of your passport, and put them in different places.
Wonderful. This is a gift for you.
Oh, thank you.
Be safe. Okay, anybody else? Who else has a tip? Yes?
Definitely carry travel insurance that you get transportation home. If you're in the United States and you drove there, they'll get your car back home. They'll get you from the hospital to the airport, and it's all,
You know, in better status on an airplane than you ever traveled before.
I love that. That's right. Because what? We want to be proactive, prepared, and protected. We want to make sure that no matter where we are in this world, we can be delivered back home. Our car can be delivered back home. Our motorcycle, because we have some people I work with that ride motorcycles. I do the exact same thing for them. If something happens, we want them to be able to come home. We don't want to have people first do GoFundMe pages for you. We don't, and anybody in your family to be stressed. We want to hand it over to the professionals who can get us home, not us. And I have a story about a woman who was in Japan. She was on a cruise, and she was taking a picture of this cute, newly married couple. She's setting up, and she took one step back, fell, broke her leg. It's in 3 places. The ship got her off the boat to a hospital, and she looked at her husband and said, I can't have an operation here. She just didn't feel it was good. So then he had to do the research. Could you imagine? Where's my computer? I'm researching how to get somebody home. Like, where do you start? He finally figured out he could do it commercially, or he could do it with this company. Very expensive, and it was all out of pocket. And I have a lot of stories about people paying out of pocket, and I don't believe in it, and this is why she was sharing the information. No, let's see. Any other tips?
Have a copy of your medical records and any medications that you need to take on a daily basis.
Yes, absolutely. Make sure you're going with your medical records if need be. I'll just run this over to you. Here we go. A little gift for you. Stay safe. Okay, Emergency Assist Plus. If you're with the military, this is awesome. I love that. I'm going to look into that because that's wonderful. Let me get you a little something too. Anybody else with the military? Okay, got you and you.
Know a bilingual doctor that speaks the language of the country you're going to, and have that contact information of that doctor in the United States or there that speaks both English and that language.
Yeah.
My cousin who's talks a lot of languages, and she's a doctor, she's one that gave me that tip.
Wonderful. That is a really great tip. I will say another thing with MedJet, if you're in a hospital, they have translators that will translate for you. So once again, huge, huge help. I have one more tip for somebody. Awesome. Did everybody hear that? Everybody with prescription eyeglasses, take a copy of your prescription with you. What if you lose your glasses? So that's a really great, yeah. And you broke them? Yes. That's really great. Now, I have to say, do you know a really quick way to lose it? Lose your global entry? Not declaring things when you bring it back to the country. Let's say you get that fabulous piece of cheese in Italy, and then you bring it back and you say, I'm not going to declare it, and they find it. They could take your global entry pass out, take it away. So we don't want that to happen. So really briefly, to go over quickly, I think we have, are we almost at time?
Got 8 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so, boy, we've had a very big conversation today, but once again, make an emergency plan, enroll with the STEP program, make sure you know the 911, make sure that you prepare with your insurance, make sure you have all of that done. We want to make sure that we're communicating with our family and our friends. We want to make sure that we have other ways to communicate with our friends. Maybe we have WhatsApp, we have texting, we have Facebook. We have a few ways to get a hold of our friends and our loved ones that are traveling the world. Oh, and if you go off the grid, because some people want to go off the grid. There might be some people that say, you know what, I don't want anybody to know where I am. If that's where you are in your life, just write a little message at the hotel, leave it by the telephone, go out for your day, and if you don't come back, and the hotel says, where is this person? They haven't been here for days. Typically, they'll call the local police. They'll come into your room and kind of look at your room and what's in there. And if you leave a message by the phone about your itinerary for that last day, at least they have a starting point of trying to find you. So another thing, make sure you understand your risk appetite and that you are staying mentally healthy, making sure that you're packing not only your humor. Make sure you pack your humor because there's a lot of things that are going on in this world, but also your patience. Make sure that you're going with a really good mind. Another thing, protect yourself, your surroundings. Make sure you're using your data blockers. And let's see, here we are. We have some resources. You'll be able to look at them closer when Nest puts out the presentation. And another thing, if you're thinking about creating an itinerary for a place that you're going, interesting, you can do it on ChatGPT. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but if you want the prompt, email me. I'll send you the prompt. If anybody wants any information at all, go ahead and email me at GSR, which is Global Secure Resources, at globalsecurestudent.com. You can reach me, you can call me, let me know if you need any help. And this was just some more resources. If you have any questions, let me know. But remember, safety isn't expensive, it's priceless. Be prepared, be proactive, prepared, and protected. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to share. So thank you. Okay.